Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra received the latest update with November security patch level, still running on One UI 6.1, still Android 14. We are all waiting to get our hands on One UI 7, which will be based on Android 15. Here I do have the iPhone updated to the latest iOS 18.1. This is the stable version. Now I know there are a lot of things for Apple Intelligence, but sadly not a lot of them do still work in the region where I am, and that's Europe. But in this video, guys, I want to focus on animations and the overall user interface experience that we are getting with those phones. Those are still the flagship phones from Apple, the Apple iPhone 16 Pro Max, and by the way, the only way to tell this for sure is the camera control button, and the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Everybody already waiting for the S25 Ultra. There's so many leaks, but there's a whole other story, guys. And we're going to start with the very first thing that you see from these phones, and this is the always-on display. When you tap the S24 Ultra once, nothing will happen. When you tap the iPhone once, we are going to directly go to the lock screen, and of course when your face is in front, the phone is going to unlock. The S24 Ultra will require a double tap, and this is going to be the animation going from the lock screen to the always on display. The lock screen is customizable. How you do this on the S24 Ultra, you need to hold your finger, then enter directly the phone, and you're going to be presented with this very nice menu from which you can choose the wallpapers. Also play with the widget here. This is the clock in that case. You can change the fonts, you can change the coloring. It's gonna be also automatic. A lot of fonts are here. You can also play with the position and with the size. You can make it bigger, you can move it to the left, you can move it to the right. This is really very cool. This wasn't the case before, but now it's like this. Before that, you had to use good luck to achieve a lot of the things. So we have here a lot of widgets. Battery, calendar, clock, you can customize all of this. And here, guys, we do have also notifications like none or icon only, or you can also present them with some details. And here we do have the icons. The way it works for the iPhone is very similar. One tap here, then just put your finger, hold it like this, all right, unlock to edit, enter your code, and voila, you are going to be presented with the editing option. When you click customize, you can customize your lock screen or your home screen. From here, we pretty much have the same idea, right? We can choose the wallpaper, we can choose different formats for the clock, different fonts, different sizes, different colors. It works pretty much in the very same way, and of course you can apply some ready effects. Now, if you do use a Xiaomi phone with HyperOS, this might look very familiar. Yes, the thing is, it looks really very much like the iOS thing. And there are some pretty fine things like weather, astronomy, collections, then your own things. If you want, you can create a brand new, right? Choose, let's say, your wallpaper, then add your widgets. iOS feels a bit more polished. We do see that blur, so I'm able to just see through that menu here where I have all the widgets. Then down below I can see there is blur already applied here. It's a bit more gray on the One UI 6, also a bit more boring. At the end of the day, it's almost the same functions, although there are some really cool things, like for example, you can have your clock with a depth effect. This gives you some depth effect, and we're also able to replicate this using various good luck modules. But enough is enough with the lock screen. I'm now on the main home screen. And this is really how it looks like. When I start to browse the home screen, this is what happens with the animation. So it seems that the iOS 18.1 just a tiny bit quicker when you're scrolling through different screens compared to the One UI 6.1. In general, the iOS animations feels a bit more slower, but also very polished, no stuttering, and very smooth. Of course, maybe not so smooth as we see in ColorOS and Origin and HyperOS 2, but still one of the best animations there. Now, guys, what happens when I scroll here on the S24 Ultra and here on the iPhone? All right, you can see I am entering the control center. And again, it's not that it's boring on the One UI 6.1, but it's not at that level. See what happens here, guys. It feels so quick, so instant, but then also the icons are doing this short dance when they pop in and out, and it just looks very cool. I have to admit, looks very cool, and I guess this is why also a lot of people prefer to use HyperOS, because they implemented something that is very similar. Now on the classic One UI 6.1, you know, we just have this very big menu. Now, by the way, this for me is better. I like to have my connectivity here, my toggles there, the brightness slider, all my devices like this. This is a bit too simplified for my personal taste, but you see how it goes. It's really cool, and the animations really are jaw-dropping. Now, when I go to the left on the One UI 6.1, I'm entering my Google Now. Here on the left, I'm gonna be entering my widget section. So I'm gonna have here battery, I'm gonna have here the usage, right? And you can, by the way, rearrange this, all right? So the moment you just click on an empty space, from this button here, you can add widgets, you can customize it, you can edit pages, right? You can make it light, dark, you know, large, small. A lot of these things were not there, and also not new to a lot of the Android users, but iOS 18 really tries to play along and finally reach that level of customization, which is very much popular and very much well known and used in Android by the Android users, because here we can probably do whatever we want with the device. It's not that easy on iOS, but I have to give some credits to Apple for finally starting to think more out of the box and really think a bit more for the user, right? Now guys, let me show you something that I believe is very cool. If I click the volume rocker here, I'm gonna get that menu. And it's cool because I have volumes for everything. For the Bixby, for my media, right, for the different notifications. And this is it, guys. This is gonna stay for a while and just boom, disappear. Now see what happens on the iPhone. I'm just gonna click the same button here, right? Boom. So unintrusive, guys. Let me show you one more time. I'm gonna pump up the volume. And by the way, guys, see, the moment I start touching the button, we have this nice animation that goes inside the screen, which is absolutely crazy. Some users will never notice this. See here, it happens on this button and on this button. So I had this visual haptic representation, which is kind of cool because it really shows the way you interact with the device. And also, see, the moment I start bringing down or up the volume slider, it will just shrink, and this will not obstruct your view. And I think this is absolutely where Apple wins. These very small, very tiny things, a lot of people will not notice them, but because they don't have them. But the moment you have this, right, it's gonna feel very cool. And it's the same story also with the dynamic island. Remember, a lot of people were making jokes about this, but let me show you something, because this thing really works, and it works in so many ways. So let's say that I'm going to run a timer, all right? This is now a standard timer. The moment I go outside, I mean, not to mention that the animation is absolutely mind-blowing. Now pay attention, all of this is just going to zoom out and come here, whoop, and then voila, I now have my timer here. And the dynamic island is integrated into so many levels on the iOS, which is absolutely fantastic. And you see, people were joking, people were making fun about this, but right now, eventually, a lot of the Android vendors are going to bring this here. And one of the reasons why we were mocking this is because we don't want to get ugly notches here. We just want to have a full screen. Apple just had a design thing to solve, because they're keeping here a lot of the sensors required for Face ID, which I believe is great. Not that I'm using it, but that's what I've heard. And then they use this disadvantage to build a whole ecosystem around this. And not only was this successful for Apple, now a lot of Android vendors are gonna bring this, and we're going to widely adopt it. Now there are already a lot of dynamic island implementations and apps for Android, and I've also heard that One UI 7 might have a dynamic island implementation on its own. We still have to see how this is gonna work, but you get my point. Besides the fact that the animations really are stunning, it's really so well integrated in your phone. So at the end, I don't think it's an issue. And most probably a lot of Apple users out there like it, but it's still not my cup of tea. This video is not only about animations, but I do also want to compare certain visual elements. So what happens when I swipe from the left? I'm gonna get to my notifications. Same thing here, all right? And now pay attention, guys. This is what happens on the Galaxy, right? The moment I start swiping, we are getting this gradual blur applied, and this looks pretty much fantastic. Something that I don't like in iOS, the moment I start doing this, I mean, we have the blur, but this thing here doesn't make any sense to me. I so much would have preferred for this to be applied in a gradual way. Now, the more I go down, the more blur to get on everything, and not like cut off here with this curtain. You can just click here and uncollapse them, and again the animation is gonna be very smooth. If you don't like them, just swipe left or right, get rid of them. The grouping works in a similar way, but also a bit different in Android, specifically in One UI 6. You're gonna get them grouped to here, and honestly I do believe that both are great. Now let's open some folders. I'm gonna open the social folder, all right, and this is what we get one more time. The moment you open the folder, we do have a similar behavior. We have blur that is gradually applied everywhere. Now guys, let's try to open an application. Let's go and open Telegram. All right, and just going outside. Again, we have this zoom in and out effect on both phones. See, zoom in and out. The thing is that when you go outside of the app in iOS, you always go back to the folder and then on the home screen. Now, this is also possible here, right? You just need to do like this, and then you go back to the folder, and then you go back to the home screen. And in iOS, I don't think that's possible. If I do like this, I'm just gonna get access to the camera. And by the way, there was some stutters involved, so I have to open the applications, do like this, another tap, and then go back on the home screen. And it's a bit quicker here on the S24 Ultra. Now one more time, I'm just gonna do this together. All right, scrolling, going outside, pretty similar. Also, in one of the updates from One UI Home, guys, see what happens here. When I select an app, it's going to blink somehow. See, exactly the same way. It happens exactly the same way. The moment I touch an icon, the icon becomes dark and then brightens up. And I'm not sure, but this might also be influenced by iOS. See what happens when I tap and hold the icon? The icon is going to get zoomed in, right? So again, just a bit more immersive. Here, I do still get my context menu, but the icon isn't zoomed in. Let's try on Facebook. Again, you see the icon just zooms in a bit, and then you get your context menu here. You know, we have the icon going dark then bright, and then we have the icon jumping. Else it's pretty much the same scenario, although the context menu here will apply blur everywhere on the screen. Now I'm inside the settings, and I wanted to show you something. Just when we scroll down a bit, you see we have this thing here, this elasticity. It was a bit like this in some of the pixels that I've used, but then Google decided to just scrap it. Now again, it's just a bit more boring, else scroll wise everything looks the same. Going outside of the settings menu, I do believe this really looks fantastic on the Samsung. One more time, you see, because we have this zoom in and out of the whole background, and it doesn't happen so dramatically on the iOS. But besides this, guys, now those are the top flagships of both Samsung and Apple's. Now let me know what you think down below in the comments. Now let's try to check some more of the animations. I'm gonna open the dialer here, all right? But you see the point, right? It's very responsive and I can stop it every time I want. Now let's try to check this here on the Ultra. All right, you can see still not so great, and I'm really trying to do this exactly in the same way, guys, okay? And I know this might look a bit weird, and I know that probably normal people won't ever do this, but we are doing these videos just to try to compare the different implementations. Here we do have nonlinear animations, which means that I can open things and stop them, interrupt them the moment I want. And sometimes, you know, when I do it right, it's gonna look very cool, like in this case. And here in the One UI 6.1, it's still not at that level, you see. Probably better than what it used to be, but it's not a true nonlinear animation. And this is something that a lot of the users will want to see in One UI 7. Like, see how responsive this is. It's absolutely crazy. And this is something that a lot of the One UI users want to see. The reason is very clear, I guess. See how smooth it is, right? And absolutely just baffled every time I want to use the One UI. Like, it isn't that bad, but animation wise, I do believe that it requires absolutely 100% nonlinear animations, just like every other OS, like the Color OS and the Hyper OS and the Harmony OS and the Origin OS, Oxygen OS, all of them, you know, they have this. So it's just about time for Samsung to just implement this and get us to this level of smoothness. All right, see what I mean? So in terms of opening folders and opening and closing apps, I do believe that now One UI 6.1 is really almost on par with the iPhone. The only thing that could be improved is really with the nonlinear animation. I do believe that this is an absolute must, and I do believe that sooner or later this is going to happen with One UI 7. But overall, both products now are very much polished, and these are one of the best phones on the market right now, guys. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and let's hope that One UI 7 will soon arrive at our phones, the better. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay safe, VST over and bye.